Hey mamas, welcome back to The Balanced Mom. If you've been on any homeschooling blogs or Facebook groups or Instagram, you've probably heard of morning baskets or nature walks or lab booking or poetry tea time. These are all things that homeschool moms would love to do.
But honestly, ain't nobody got time for that.
As a newer homeschooling mom, I've been on all the blogs and I was super excited to try all of these things. The picture perfect, like morning baskets and all the cute stuff, the activities that people have in there. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I have tried doing it with them and I'm already overwhelmed. And I have one that's like legitimately homeschooling. So I have no idea how these moms who have like 4 or 5 kids manage to do it with all the other curriculum they have to do with that many kids. For those of you newer homeschooling mamas who don't know what this is, hasn't come across this fad yet, a morning basket is where you sort of have like a themed basket, so it could be like dinosaurs for the month. And so you'll have books in there related to dinosaurs, maybe some songs that you have picked out related to dinosaurs. You could have like Play-Doh pictures that you want to make with dinosaurs.
Some people do a more basic one where it's not necessarily theme-based, but they'll do like their devotions in that time, maybe even like an art appreciation, whether it's a project or something related to art, and even something music or poetry related. And so that's a basic one, but even though it sounds basic, let's be realistic. I'm about to go into our 8th year of homeschooling, and I can tell you that even though it sounds basic, I will tell you a secret, I do not do art, poetry, or all these other little electives every single day. So when you're adding all these electives to your morning basket, now it becomes a daily thing, and you're adding a lot more to your to-do. So I have tried morning basket, and that's because it looks so picture perfect. Like the idea of waking up in the morning, everybody's smiling, they come downstairs, you have breakfast, and you're like, today we're gonna read this, we're gonna read this poem, and we're gonna listen to this piece of music, and then we're gonna check out this little art thingy. Guys, I have crabby kids in the morning, and I'm kind of crabby some mornings. So I'm being so realistic when I said I tried it and it just didn't work for our family. And so when you're seeing these perfect pictures on Instagram and you're like, oh, that's what I want in my homeschooling, guys, that is not realistic every single day. So yes, you can do it like Friday if it's your half day of school, then totally attempt it on that day. But it's not something that you have to do every single day. And it's definitely not something that you will end up doing daily with kids that have a happy heart.
I am an optimist, so I'm still holding out that I can nail down this morning basket thing and do it and integrate it into our homeschool, but I can also see myself turning into her where there's just other things that's more important, but we'll see how it goes.
So I think the issue is that the idea is awesome and it works when you have maybe 1 or 2, and I think it even works for some bigger families that somehow found a miracle solution that I apparently cannot find. But when I have a 2-year-old who now is a 2-year-old but who is a lot more needy and whiny and needing my attention, it's just not realistic. When he's waking up in the morning, he needs his food. As he's eating his food, he's still asking for different things, maybe for water, or he finishes before everyone else. It just really wasn't working. So I did try it and I love the idea, but definitely not for this chapter in life. The second one, poetry tea time. So it sounds exactly what it is. It's basically tea time as you read poetry or as somebody in your family reads poetry. So again, the idea is nice, but as soon as you add something as a mandate, it kind of feels like a chore instead of something enjoyable. And so even though I love doing tea time, there's other times when we do just poetry, I like to do it whenever we're in the mood or whenever you have a week that's a lot more easier. You kind of get that breath of fresh air and you're like, let's do poetry tea time this week. Otherwise, like it's not something that I want to commit to every single week or even several times a week for that matter.
Third, morning binder. This is actually pretty similar to a morning basket, as in you do it when you first wake up. It has a couple extras in it. Ours looks a little different than this. My kids are young, so they're still learning to write their names, and so it has a little section on the top where their names are dotted, and it has a little section underneath where they can practice writing out their names. But we also have this where you practice writing down the days of the week, or mine has how you're feeling in it. It has the date and you can talk about the temperature outside. It's just extra things you want to practice with your kids and different things you want to expose them to that may not be included in the curriculum.
The backside of this actually was a body, and the child could dress up the person based on the weather. So you could basically take it and make it super simple, like writing their name, maybe the date, and then move on. Or you could make it a lot more intrinsic, where they're doing a lot more related to the extra practice that they may need. So for example, at the bottom of ours is write today's word, but there was times when I really just didn't have a word for them to write, and so instead I would think of a spelling word that they were struggling with, and that's the word that I would give them. So you could honestly just use it however you want. But it's another thing that I committed to at that point in our life, but at this point, teaching 3 out of the 4 with a 2-year-old obviously need my attention. It's just not something I can commit to daily.
So we actually still use this more than any other things that we have in this list, but it's not daily. We do it when we have the time for it, or when I feel like they need extra practice with something, or if they've forgotten how to write their days of the week or something like that. But it is still just something extra to add to the list. So if you don't have the time for it, don't worry about it.
All of these are probably one of the first things that should go if you're feeling overwhelmed.
4, lap books and unit studies. These can be really, really fun, and if your child is struggling with wanting to learn or getting into whatever subjects you're teaching them, this could be a good way to make them interested in it again, but it's just another thing to add to your plate. Some people stop a curriculum and just do the unit studies in place of the curriculum. If that's what you're choosing to do, that's fine. Then it may be less overwhelming, but the problem is now you're behind in your curriculum, and so it kind of depends on what your priorities are.
And some curriculums come in a form of unit study. So that's, again, very different when your actual curriculum is dictating to do a unit study. But adding it on top of what you're actually learning is honestly just more work. And so it works for many families, but if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's the one thing that needs to go.
Along with unit studies are lap books. These are super cute and super fun, but they do require more prep time from the parent, and they're just more work. They do have to do extra research to be able to fill in the lap books.
But it's kind of like an actual journal, but instead of just a journal where they're writing how their day was, it's more like a nature journal, or maybe a journal that's geared towards animals. So I would compare a lap book definitely with a journal entry.
If this is your main form of your kids writing stuff down, so if they're doing like a lap book instead of a workbook or instead of worksheets, then by all means, if this works for your child, then do it. But if you're adding a lap book on top of the worksheets and all the other things they're already doing, it's probably going to burn them out.
Yeah, like if you're doing an actual journal lap book on top of a writing curriculum, you honestly need to choose one or the other. They should not be doing both.
5, nature walks.
As much as I love the idea of taking the kids out on a nature walk, let's be realistic. There's going to be those days. It's okay to just take the kids and go on a walk. We don't need to call it a nature walk. We don't need to look for anything. We honestly just need to get out and get some fresh air. And so I love the idea of looking for something and exploring and looking at this tree trunk, but sometimes we just need to get outside. And so another thing that needs to go is a nature walk. If you're always like, I need to include it, I want to include it daily, or I want to include it several times a week, it's okay, y'all, to take your kids and just go for a walk. And whatever they see, that's fine, but you don't actually have to push them exploring or studying nature or doing anything more than just taking a walk and enjoying God's creation.
Mamas, if you do any of these things or all of these things, you are awesome that you can keep up with it. Again, I am an idealist, so I am actually hoping to incorporate some of these back into the homeschool eventually, but I know in the back of my mind that we don't need it. So if it's stressing us out, or if it's stressing my kids out and we're not getting any joy out of it, we don't need to do it. Mamas, if you have any other confessions of things that other homeschoolers might do that your family doesn't do or doesn't work for you guys, please let us know down in the comment section below.
And don't forget to hit the like, and if you are still not subscribed, don't forget to subscribe so you can see our weekly updates and videos.